Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Scorpion Controls YouTube channel. This episode I'm going to cover UDTs, otherwise known as a user-defined tag. Many of you might be familiar with them, but for those that aren't familiar with UDTs are really common and really good to use when you have repetitive tasks or repetitive equipment that have the same say signals or attributes, we like to call them. So for example, say a VFD, you take just a simple VFD, you know you're going to have start buttons, run buttons, or run feedback. You're going to have a stop button. You're going to have commanded frequency. You're going to have the actual frequency speed that it's running at. You're going to have alarms, feedback. So those are, this is where you're going to see the power of using UDTs. So just like I mentioned, you're going to have common signals coming back for a component, whether it's a VFD, a conveyor, or even a pump or a valve, right? But let's say you had 9 attributes for each VFD, and say you had 3 VFDs. Well, there you go, right off the bat. You're going to have to create 27 global variables to cover all those attributes that might be related to the VFD you're using. We can take those, say 9 variables for each VFD and access all 9 just by all under one global variable. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. I'm going to show you right here. So I'm using the OMRON Sysmac Studio. So to create a UDT, we go under our multi-view explorer. We just navigate down to our data folder here and expand that. And you'll see a little selection for data types. So when you click data types, you'll get this window that pops up. So one thing to note, in OMRON, a UDT is referred to as a structure. Okay, so same theory, same idea, just note that OMRON calls them structures. Right? So how do we create a structure, a UDT? Well, I don't have any created yet, so it will have this grayed out text that says empty, click here to add item. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to click, and I get this little window here. Right? So it wants me to give a name to this UDT. So that's really your first step, is name the UDT. I'm going to keep mine simple. I'm just going to call it VFD underscore DT for data type. Right? So I've named my UDT. So it's still going to be red in OMRON here because you'll see a little pop-up window here that I need to have at least one member as well. So how do we create a member? So what is a member? A member is basically, for example, your run button or a stop button or your feedback status. Those are members to your UDT. So to create my member, I'm just going to right click and select create new member. All right. So when I do that, it opens up and allows me to start typing in all the members. So right at the bat, I'm just going to start with start. Right, which is going to be my start button. When you create your members, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to your base type and that it matches up to what it actually is. So start button, this is just going to be a Boolean, it's on or off, right? So start, and I'm going to give this a comment. So it's going to be my start input. Right? I know it's pretty obvious that's what it is, but I love to comment everything. Right? So you just continue on with all your attributes that you want to have for your UDT. So I'll create all mine really quick here. Stop input. Create a new one. So one thing you're going to notice too, as I'm creating a new one, it's going to take the last member, what its base type was, and just duplicate it. So you want to pay attention to that as well. So on my next one, I'm going to create frequency set point. Oops, SP. But I want this to be an int. All right, so I have to make sure I update that to be an integer. Okay, look at that frequency target. Okay, and I just carry on. So again, it's going to take now this integer and just duplicate that when I create a new member. So just make sure you're always paying attention to what you're at. Boolean. This guy is going to be my alarm reset. If the alarms, and then I want run feedback. VFD, and a couple more here. Run feedback, run output. Whoops. Run output. There we go. And I got a fat finger up here. Fix that up. Alarm output. Now your situation might be different. You may use all these. You may not need it, half these that I put in. It all depends on what your VFD gives you access to, or what it puts out for you to acquire, or what it will accept. What's nice about this is you can put in more VFD or more attributes than you actually need. Just because they're in here does not mean you have to use them. It's not going to fault out because you didn't use every single one. Right, so if you down the road get a VFD that has more options, you can add to this UDT, or you might already have it in there. So that's what makes them nice as well, is they're very customizable, and they can be updated as the project goes on or progresses over the years. And then one more here. See actual. And this one is going to be an int. And I also want my runtime to be a time. I want it to fall under the time base type. Okay, actual frequency. Okay, so believe it or not, that's all there is to creating a UDT, or again, a structure in OMRON. Right? So if I want to create more UDTs, I simply just right click and say create new data type, and it would create a second line where you'd go through the process again of just adding all your attributes. Basically, that is really all there is to creating a UDT in OMRON. So how do we use it? How do we access this now? So now we're going to create global variables. And remember, so I created 9 attributes to this UDT. So imagine if you had 3 VFDs. You have to make 27 global variables to cover all those attributes. Well, now that we created this UDT, I can now just nail this list down to just 3 simple global variables. VFD1, right? Once I create my first global variable here, I have to be sure that I change the data type to find the UDT, or to map it to the UDT. So as soon as I start typing in the name of that UDT, it will show me my options. Because I only have one UDT created, it's only showing me one option. So I'm just going to double click on him, and then that's it. And now I'll create 2 more. I'm just going to highlight this row, and I'm just going to copy and paste 2 more in. So this guy is going to be VFD2, and this one will be VFD3. And that's it. I've taken 27 global variables, potentially, and I still have access to all those variables, but only I can access them all through just 3 simple global variables. Now, I don't know if there's a way. I haven't found a way in OMRON, but I know in Rockwell, once you create a UDT and you map it to a variable, you can drill down. You can expand that variable and see all the attributes. I don't know how to do that in OMRON from this screen, but I know there is some workarounds if you really want to see it. One of those ways is if you double click the comment box, you'll get this gray icon box that shows up, and you click on that, and that will show you in here all the attributes that are available to that global variable now. Okay. You also have a comments section here. So you remember that we created comments when we created the UDT. What's nice about this is I can create a comment that's specific to VFD1 only. So say there is something unique to VFD1 start button, you can put that comment in here. So for example, I'll just say that this button, it's located next to MCC1, I guess, right? This now comment will appear for VFD1 only. So any comment I put in here will not pass on to the other two VFDs that accesses this UDT. If I leave it blank, then the comment will be whatever I put in under the UDT comments. Okay, so there's our three variables, there's our data types. Let's just look really quick in some ladder logic here. So in here, I just create a simple rung, and it's just a latching circuit for the VFD. So how do we use those UDTs in here? Easy. First, I type in VFD, right? Start typing, and there's my three global variables I created, 1, 2, and 3. So this first one's just going to be VFD1. So VFD1, and then I add a period. Now I have access to all the attributes that are available to me from that UDT. So I want the start button in this case. And as I click that, you'll notice my description or my comment is what I created in that VFD1 comment section specifically. So this one's located next to MCC1. Right, and I just continue on and fill in my blanks here. This one I want to be the stop. This one I want to be my alarm. VFD1 dot alarm output. And this is going to be my run. So VFD1 dot run output. And then I'm going to latch that in right here. D1 dot run output. There's my first run. There's how I access all the attributes under that UDT, which are mapped to my one global variable. Right? So now I'm just going to copy this run, paste it in a couple times, and now I want this one to be VFD2. So I can just backspace and put a 2 in there, and now these attributes are tied to VFD2 global variable. So you can see where this is really nice. Change all these, and you'll notice too how VFD2 start comment is what was listed under the UDT comment, right? So this does not get passed on. This VFD1 does not get passed on to the other VFDs. That is specific to this start button. Okay. So same thing for number 3 here. Let's make these all number 3. Get in there. There we go. So you can see if you had about 50 VFDs, how this would be nice to do, because if you have 50 VFDs, you're going to have, a lot of global variables going on. But anyways, that's it in a nutshell. UDTs in OMRON. Again, OMRON refers to a UDT as a structure, but they operate the same way. Again, be sure to pay attention to your base types, that they match up to actually what you want them to be based on that input or output. And that's about it. And again, you can specify custom comments for each VFD if you had to, okay, which will not pass on to the other ones. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this clears some stuff up with OMRON for you. I look forward to putting out my next video where I'm going to use these VFDs in combination with function blocks. So look for that video and pass this on, share it, and then subscribe, give it a good like, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.